Hello there. Welcome to our Stone Canyon Outdoor Adventures Outdoor Ed parent presentation. My name is Kelly Basioli. I'm the program manager for our Outdoor Ed program. This is my fourth season with Stone Canyon, and I'm going on a year and a half in Douglas County and in Colorado. My background is in outdoor education, and I think I've been working in outdoor education maybe a decade and a half, primarily with wilderness-based adventures, so expeditions and experiential education in the form of like trips, backpacking and rock climbing and canoeing. And I've made my way back to Colorado, where I've been working with Stone Canyon in 5th and 6th grade outdoor ed, which is where I started. So I've been excited to return. I have an amazing team to work with. And one of our team members, Ryan Southard, is on with us right now. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself too, Ryan. Pass it over to you.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm the program coordinator at Stone Canyon. I've been here for about 3.5 years now. I've started out as an instructor, worked, was a lead instructor, and then came on as a program coordinator last year. So about a little over a year now in the role. Part of what I do is work with our high school lead volunteers that come out and support our instructors, which we'll talk more about when we get to that part of the presentation, and what their role is at camp. But I also do other things with logistics and stuff here at camp also.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan. All right. We're going to start off with our PowerPoint presentation, and we're anticipating our presentation to be a little under an hour, and we've incorporated a lot of your questions into the presentation, and we'll try and have some time at the end as well for anybody to put questions into the chat too. So we'll get going here. Again, we are Stone Canyon Outdoor Adventures. And one of our logos here is we transform how students experience ... So what is it that they're experiencing? Experiential education is the bigger umbrella term for a lot of what we do. Experiential education is a process of learning by doing. So students get a chance to try out different experiments, to take what they're learning and go outside with it, to shift things that they're making, or to ask different questions, and then maybe to come back and change things around according to what they saw and what they experienced. A lot of experiential education involves the group. It involves the perspectives and the questions and the curiosity of those learning the topic. So for us with outdoor education, a lot of our classes are outdoors. I would say most of them are outdoors. And we have some that are indoors that have a bit of an outdoor component. All of them are participatory, and they're engaging. And so in general, we're asking students to put on a different thinking cap, maybe a different learner cap than what they're used to, and to really get into whatever the topic is, whatever the subject is, engaging them, but also asking them to get curious, not only about the topic, but around the environment around them, including themselves. So we'll hear more about the classes here in a little bit, but that's just an overview of what outdoor education involves. It's a topic within experiential education. All right, here's some of our social media and our info up here, our website. You can find a lot on our website in terms of parent resources, information about our classes. There's also information about the registration process, and in terms of how to reach out to us if you have specific questions, and we'll cover that as well. Stone Canyon has been around for about 10 years. We are part of the Douglas County School District, so that is our umbrella program. And in general, we work mostly with 5th and 6th grade students. They come for usually 3 days and 2 nights, typically Monday to Wednesday and Wednesday to Friday. And we focus on just one school at a time. So there's about an hour of time or so when the students might be on the property together, but they're not actually interacting or engaging. We're pretty focused on just one school at a time while they're here. So in general, our programs are 90 minutes. We offer 7 different activities, and that is 4 in a day. So there'll be a 90-minute class in the morning with a transition time frame, and then another 90-minute class. And then we have lunch, and then 2 more 90-minute classes in the afternoon. And that includes a snack and a transition. And we have 2 evening activities. And those are 75 minutes, and we'll hear a little more about the specifics of our classes and our activities in a bit. We have a registered nurse on site 24 hours a day. They are also an employee of the district, and they're available at any time. They help administer medication anytime that's necessary. So any of the regular meds in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and they're also on call all day, all the time, 24 hours for anything that pops up, whether it's an upset stomach, whether it is a bruise or a rash or something like that. They are always available for us. All right, some of our program goals. In general, the number one thing for us is physical and emotional safety for the students. So with the winter, what that can look like is making sure they have the layers that they need, that they're covering their ears, they have gloves, particularly if they're outside and they're doing things with their hands, and also that they are getting what they need in terms of nutrients and water, and along with that, making sure that they are emotionally safe. So that includes having their voice heard, feeling included, feeling a part of a team, making sure that we can support them and meet the needs that they have as they come up. Another big goal of ours is social and emotional growth. So often the students that are coming to us, whether they're 5th grade or 6th grade, are at the upper end of their school. They also might be the beginning of a middle school. It varies a little bit. But the social side is they get to interact with a lot of different students, perhaps be outside their main peer group, perhaps be outside their homeroom. We have activity groups that they are in for those 7 activities, and that's the same students for each of those. And then we have a separate group for them at meals. And so they sit with the same folks at one table, and maybe that's an entirely different group from their activity group. So you're getting to develop some different friendships and relationships there. And then they also are assigned to a bunk room. So another group of students that they're with in the evenings and the early mornings. And within that, a lot of them are getting to step outside, perhaps some typical patterns or routines that they have in school, maybe some social norms that they've fallen into, or a certain role that they've continued to be in year after year, if they've been with the same school and the same group of kids. And that can be really interesting for them and for their peers. So they get to acknowledge and see each other in a little bit of a different light. Another goal of ours is to develop an appreciation and a respect for nature and for the environment, and specifically how we engage with nature and how we notice the things around us and are tuned into that and aware of what's happening. What does it look like? What are the sounds we hear? What are the tracks we see in the snow? What's happening with the sun and the time of day, and perhaps the stars at night? So just some awareness of that, and hopefully developing some appreciation for it, because we're fairly immersed. A lot of our activities are outside. And then hand in hand with that, another goal is to develop some awareness and knowledge about sustainability concepts. So everything from right there at our camp, what are we tuning into at meals, and mindfully eating and paying attention to eating what we choose, and any kind of opportunity for mindfulness there, as well as like further out. We do water quality studies with a stream that's on our property, and then letting that awareness expand out into perhaps, their neighborhoods, their communities, their state, and beyond. And then hopefully creating some new friendships as well. So they're getting to know different students in their class. Maybe some they've been around for several years and not really gotten to know, but getting to see each other in a different light and getting to interact and have some time for those new friendships to develop. All right. And I'm going to pass it on to you, Ryan, if you will share more about these classes with us.
All right, so we're going to start off with our science curriculum. In our science classes, we have aerodynamics, animal survivor, balloon rescue, fire ecology, forest eco, freshwater bio, and sustainability superhero. So a little bit on each of those. So aerodynamics is we're going to learn about the engineering design process. We're also, and then we're going to learn how we'll start with building this one thing, right? Coming up with an idea for it, building it, realizing, oh man, it could be way better, and we'll rebuild it. And how that process just kind of goes along till we get that final product. And then we use, and while doing that, we then bring in bottle rockets and this idea of aerodynamics as well. We get to shoot off bottle rockets at the end. Animal Survivor gets us outside. We're moving around. We're playing a lot of fun games that tell us, where we learn about the food chain, the food web, and how animals interact with each other, and how they interact with their food supply, and how that changes, whether they need food, water, shelter, and if one of those is missing, how does that affect us? And so yeah, we have balloon rescue. Balloon rescue is it's an awesome one. We'll see it come up in another category too, because it kind of like balances in both sometimes. But basically, it is similar to egg drop, except with some water balloons instead that we're keeping safe. And on this one, they have to be on a team. They're figuring out how to build their thing, how to manage some money to get the supplies they need to build that contraption that keeps it safe. And then we take it outside, we drop it, and we get to see some fun, some goofiness happen. Fire ecology. Here, we kind of start inside, go outside a little bit. But during this one, we kind of learn about how fires and how they interact with our environment, which could be pretty important here in Colorado. In my background, at one point, I worked on burn crews out east and whatnot. And so this is a really fun class where you get to see how it interacts with that environment and different ecosystems. For this one, we kind of like learn about the fire triangle, and how it might use different fuels, different areas. We'll go outside, we'll look at what would fire do here. And we kind of learn the difference between like wildfire versus control fire a little bit. And then we kind of do some test fires with our instructors on a super small scale. And we get to see how maybe incline, elevation, wind, dense forests and forests that have been thinned and have less vegetation and underbrush, how all that affects that. And then we have forest eco. With forest ecology, we get outside, and this one I think is just kind of out there in a nutshell, because it is whenever we go for a hike, our eyes are always on the path in front of us, where our foot's about to land next. We might be looking forward, but constantly our eyes are going down to see where we're headed. But during this activity, we start to bring our eyes up and look for things that we wouldn't already notice. And along the way, we're also going to learn some plants and some other species out there. We might learn about some the yucca and along the way. Freshwater biology. This one currently, if we took it, it'd be frozen water bio, because our creek is definitely frozen. But for our later late spring schools, and when we get into the fall again, we get out there, we get in the water. We don't stand in the water, but we get our hands right in it. We might flip over some rocks, find some macroinvertebrates and see what that tells us about our creek. We also do some tests like pH and dissolved oxygen tests as well, just to kind of get that idea. That picture on the slide is some of our friends having their nets, getting our macroinvertebrates out there and having some fun. Sustainability Superheroes is a brand new class for this upcoming season. And it kind of takes the place of our other class that we used to have here. And what we're looking at is sustainability and our energy use and how that interacts with our day-to-day lives on a small and large scale. All right. And we have these outdoor education classes. So these are ones when you hear outdoor ed, this is where your mind might go. Archery, orienteering, and outdoor skills. But there's also art and nature. We'll talk about that one. So archery, right? We get to go out there. We learn what these compound bows are and how they are used. We learn how to safely use them. And then we let them come up and try their hand at it. For a lot of kids, this is their first time maybe shooting archery. And it's a really empowering moment. Like, even if they don't hit a single target, just shooting down the range in a safe way, and just to know, oh, this is something I can do. And then pretty quickly we're getting kids on targets really fast, and it's just so much fun. Art and nature, this one, they're like, what are we doing here? And it's just what it says. We're doing art in nature. We're using nature to build the art. This class is modeled after Andy Goldworthy, and what he does, he goes out and he just goes out. He might spend a week, a month looking at his environment and seeing, what do I want to put here? And he only uses natural materials and to both get the things that he wants out and then to put it together. And it usually kind of fits in that environment and landscape that he's in. So we have this class where they get to learn maybe about the different aspects of art, and then we go out and build awesome things out there before taking it back down, because let's leave no trace. Well, then we have orienteering, where we learn how to use maps, compasses, and we learn how together they're amazing and they do awesome things, and apart, well, they might not be that useful. And then we have outdoor skills. And outdoor skills, we're getting out there, we're learning about those leave no trace principles. We're learning about the 10 essential items. And then we're also getting out there and building shelters that we then have to take down, but it's super fun and awesome. Then we have these leadership classes. We have balloon rescue, high ropes, team building, and zip line. We saw balloon rescue earlier in that science one, because we're kind of using the engineering design process there too. But here, it also falls in leadership because we put them in teams where each person on the team has a different role, and how we have to put that together, utilize it to build that product. And we get to kind of talk through and debrief what that looked like. And then we have high ropes and zip line. These are our two adventure activities that we have on our challenge courses. And they are challenge courses because it is challenge by choice, whether they want to participate or not. We kind of bring that idea and mindset into a lot of our activities, but here they're in the forefront when they get their safety speech. And adventure, as a lot of us know, or if we didn't, is not safe, right? Because we're being adventurous. And so we learn about how we can be as safe as possible. And then we get the opportunity to either take that challenge or not. And that challenge on either of those could be putting on a harness, going up, looking at it, and then just like, I'm going to send it and just go. But it could also be staying on the ground and saying, no, this is where I'm good. This is where I feel awesome. I want to support my friends and cheer them on. Even on our ropes course, be anywhere in between. They can go up a few rungs and be like, hey, I've challenged myself. This is my success point as far as I want to go. And they come on back down. We high five them and we bring on the next participant. And then we have team building. And team building, is I think the bread and butter also of like outdoor ed. It's in everything we do, whether we call it that or not. We get them together, we play games, do initiatives, uh, and get them involved in interacting and cause them to have to communicate and work as a team. And then sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't communicate well. Sometimes we don't work as a team very well. That's okay. Because then we're going to talk about, we're going to debrief it and see how we can do better. And then bring it right into the next activity we're doing in that same class. That way we can learn as we go. And yeah, so that's our leadership classes. And then finally, we have our evening programs. These, we have 3 different ones. Our schools will pick 2 of these. The first 2, Nature at Night and Barn Dance, are typically on our first night. And Nature at Night is sometimes, I know it's been called like a night hike and other things, but for our Nature at Night, we are taking our friends to different locations along at camp that we probably already walked by or went to earlier that day. We go there, it starts out, not too dark. We're playing a lot of fun games that teach us about animals that maybe come out at dusk and dawn. Those crepuscular animals are not, and then we might talk about our nocturnal ones and how sight isn't very important and how maybe our other senses like smell, our hearing, might be more important. And so then we go through those. We might even look at the stars. If it's a super clear night and the moon's not too bright out, we get super dark skies, and sometimes you can even see the Milky Way, and it's amazing. Then we have Barn Dance. With Barn Dance, this is it's kind of like that middle school dance almost, a little slightly updated playlist. But we head down, maybe we do a few line dances here and there, but then it's just a good, high energy, fun time. But at the same time, it's another time when we have challenge by choice. We're not going to force anyone to dance that doesn't want to. And we're not going to let anyone pressure other people into dancing, because that's not camp. Instead, if kids just want to hang out on the sides, hang out with their friends, talk, have fun, we have some games set up in the back corner where they can play cards. These new magnetic tiles to build things with. And it's just a super fun time back there too. I once had a game of war going on. We were pulling kids off the dance floor. It was so hyped. It's just a good high energy time. On that first night, everyone gets to know each other and have a fun time and burn that energy off before heading to bed. And we have campfire, that thing that just closes every camp, right? We always have one towards the end, wherever we are. And we get to hear some fun stories that aren't scary, because we don't tell scary stories at camp. We might have some songs, repeat after me songs, some skits. And then we may even hear an awesome poem that I hear some of our instructors are really working hard on. And then at the middle of that, don't worry. You're like, wait, there's missed. And that was the ooey gooey s'mores, but I didn't miss them. I just want to save them for last. But don't worry, we're also not going to give your kids a lot of pokers. There'll be a lot of them. We're going to bake those in the oven. They're going to be just as ooey and gooey and just as awesome though. So that's our campfire.
Thank you, Ryan. I believe there's a serious art to making s'mores, and over time, you get really good at it when you make a lot every week. So talking a little bit about our staff, that's one of my favorite parts of this program is the amazing people we get to work with. We have instructors, and we have a couple of additional instructors that offer leadership. We call our lead instructors, and then we have our full-time admin staff, such as Ryan and myself. Our instructors, most of them have bachelor's degrees, some have masters or are working on their masters. They're all trained in first aid and CPR and are certified also in some advanced wilderness first aid, and some are wilderness first responders. They're also trained in the standard response protocol and emergency procedures that are in alignment with the district and what is used and trained in schools. They provide the supervision and facilitation at all times. And the exception to that is when the students are with the teachers. We have 2 times in the day when we have teacher time. about a half an hour after lunch and a little more than an hour after dinner. And aside from that, the students are with instructors at all times. There's not ever a time when the student is wandering around on camp by themselves or with some of their friends wandering around. They are always with our instructors. And if they're not, they're with an admin or the nurse or their teachers. All of our staff participate in 2 weeks of training. They learn the curriculum. They learn the different emergency protocol, as we mentioned, and they're also background checked with the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. As I mentioned, we do have an RN on site 24 hours a day. In addition to this, our staff are passionate about what they do. They get excited about young people. They get excited about the environment. They get excited about experientially learning. And they understand that we are all students of life. We're all each getting our own experiential education from life. I find them inspiring and humbling every day that I get to work with them. They're also pretty goofy and silly. And you can see in this photo, there's a lot of randomness that happens with the staff. Oftentimes, we'll hear from students and from teachers that they'll have 1 or 2 students that just found a way and identified that sometimes they don't always in school. And that might be the outdoor component, and it might just be the randomness of our staff who care a great deal. Right. So this is a photo of our dining hall. It's not as new as it was, but it is an expanded version of what we used to utilize. We get really excited about it. It is also the place we'll bring campfire inside if we need to. If the temperatures are pretty frigid outside, we can set up some lights and one of those little faux campfire warmers and still have s'mores. Can be a lot of fun. But we operate out of a commercial grade kitchen. And we utilize family style seating. So what that looks like is, as I mentioned, every student is placed in a table group. And so at each meal, they have their table that they go to, and we have family style. So there'll be one student designated for that particular meal who goes and brings back the plate of mashed potatoes and the big platter of chicken tenders and whatever else is for the meal. And the students eat as though they're in a family setting, and they each have a serving, and then we often have leftovers where that one individual student, we call them the hopper, they will go back up and get seconds if anyone at their table is wanting additional food. We are a nut aware facility, which means that we do not serve anything with nuts of any kind, and we don't allow any of that on our property. We aren't fully a nut-free facility. The distinction is that there is the occasion where we would have foods come in that were packaged or produced in a facility that also produced nuts. So we call ourselves nut aware instead. Sometimes we get pretty nutty in general, but usually it's not the type of nuts that will create an anaphylactic reaction if your student has an allergy. All of the outside candy and treats we ask to be turned in during orientation. And so that's like if you have anything that you are excited to send with your student, we ask that they turn that in so they're not carrying it around in their backpack, so they don't have little four-legged whiskered friends following them around or following them into the cabins or anything. And then that gets returned to them on the final day. If you have a child that has specific dietary needs and you are looking to get more information about sending a snack or sending even part of their meals with them, you are welcome to touch base with our chef. Her name is Kim Wolfram, and this is her information at the bottom of the screen here. Her email address is the best way to contact her. She does her very best to accommodate any kind of dietary needs. So anything from being dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, vegan, vegetarian, anything like that. She does a really good job of trying to accommodate it. She just needs to have preparation for that, like time in advance to know that that's what she needs to account for the meal. And then we ask that if that consideration is made to accommodate that student, that student is clear that that's what they're eating while they're at camp. We have sometimes students that are dairy-free or gluten-free, and they get really excited about what's served, and they still want to come in and eat whatever else everyone else is eating. So feel free to reach out to her at this email address here, and we'll have one more slide at the tail end of our presentation that will bring up this information again, but she's really fantastic at accommodating when she can. And then in the rare situation where you would want to send some kind of snack or treats, she'd be a great resource for touching base about that. We typically, in terms of snacks, when we have them in the afternoon, they're anything from, let's see, like cereal bars to granola bars, Cheez-Its, chips, Sun Chips, that kind of thing. So you can touch base with her if you're curious about those kinds of things, specifically for the dates and the time that your students come in. All right. Ryan, I think I'm passing it back to you. Are you ready?
All right. So after that barn dance or nature at night activity, or that campfire on the last night, we head back to our cabins. We have two participant cabins. They are separated by gender, and then for how they identify. And then we have our bunk groups. Our bunk groups, so inside each cabin, you can see this one of these rooms that has a bunch of beds in it. And there are, I think, 4 bunk rooms in each cabin. And in there, we have, those are chosen by the teachers ahead of time. So are the activity groups. And so we have 4 of those in each one. There's also electricity, heat, indoor plumbing. Those bathrooms are single-use bathrooms where they can close the door behind them. And that's sometimes where they'll change as well, brush their teeth, take showers. And then in each of those bunk rooms, we have about 8 to 16 kids per bunk. And inside of that bunk room, we have 1 to 2 high school leaders, which I think we're talking about next. And then we have 2 Stone Canyon staff or teachers there in the cabin itself. So the high schoolers are in there helping the kids, making sure they're staying on task, having fun, playing games with them, reading them stories. And then we have our instructors kind of walking around, bouncing in and making sure everything's running smoothly. And that's our cabins.
All right. So moving on to our medical policies and protocol. If you've sent previous siblings to Stone Canyon, this list might look a little longer than you remember. We offer quite a bit more from our nurse side of things. Our nurse is allowed to dispense these following items here, as long as there's been a permission clicked during the registration that says that our nurse can administer. So those things are Tylenol, Benadryl, ibuprofen, Zyrtec, Tums antacid, Calagel anti-itch cream, burn cream, and cough drops. All of these meds do not need any kind of doctor or practitioner sign off. But during registration, parents still need to indicate permission for our nurse to administer these. And like you might imagine, the nurse keeps a record of everything that's administered. And so anything that falls outside of this needs to have a doctor sign off form. And those forms can be found online on our website. And if you have something that gets administered at school regularly, and that form has already been sent to the school, we just need a copy of it to come with the medication. All right, so some more details about this. Again, we need that provider medication form or that doctor's note to come with anything else that wasn't on that list. I mean, that includes vitamins, supplements, ointments, and all over-the-counter meds, including like melatonin gummies. Anything that wasn't in that previous list needs to be accompanied by this provider medication form. Additionally, all meds, including vitamins, need to be labeled like in their original packaging and sent with the student. If it's anything that is prescribed, obviously it needs to have the student's name on it. It needs to match what's in the bottle, and the dosage that's in the bottle needs to be what is on the outside label. I'm often someone that doesn't like to say what not to do, but I think this is important for parents to hear. Please make sure the original containers or labels are coming with all of the meds you're sending, including vitamins, versus pulling out just what they need and putting them in a Ziploc bag and putting their name on it. So we want to make sure everything comes in that official packaging. Otherwise, you will hear from our nurse who will need to confirm things with you. Any kind of self-carry items, if your student typically has carries an EpiPen or like an albuterol inhaler, we need a permission to carry form filled out to come with that. And they are welcome to carry it at camp, particularly if they are used to carrying it at school. We just need this form filled out. Again, if you already have this form filled out with the district and it's at their school, you're welcome to make a copy and send it with them. Additionally, these items can also remain with our nurse, and the nurse is somewhat on the move with the students. So oftentimes the nurse is at meals just by default, even if a student doesn't have even if any of the students don't have meds that they take at meals. And then oftentimes the nurse is at the evening activities, whether it's the barn dance or the campfire, they're ready to go. So you're welcome to have the student come with this permission to carry form and carry it themselves. You're also welcome to have one of these items stay with the nurse or both. All homeopathic meds may not be administered at camp. And the exception to this is hemp, and there needs to be a provider med form for this and signed off with a parent or guardian. And we've recently had a question specifically about CBD, and that can be administered by teachers of that student, but it may not be administered by our nurse or any of our Stone Canyon staff. All right. Passing it back your way, Ryan.
All right. So we've talked about them a few times. We've hinted at them. These are our high school lead volunteers. The only thing better than our instructors. Just kidding. I might be just a little biased because I get to work with them and I'm the one that brings them out to camp. We have a few hundred of them throughout the season that are coming out and volunteering with your students. They are 10th grade and above. They are coming from the district, from DCSD. And all our volunteers do have to apply and be accepted. And then they have to go through a training with myself. That first one's going to be this Saturday. It's going to be really, really fun. These volunteers, they also receive like feedback from me, and they are out here to have fun, but they're also receiving community service hours. They get 42 hours of community service for each program they come out and volunteer with, plus their training hours. And some of them keep coming back because they just love this program. They love working with your students. I mean, I have some that come out 3 times a semester occasionally, and they just love it. They love working with your kids, and your kids love them. Where they love our instructors, these high schoolers that are going to schools that a lot of them are going to maybe next here soon, and they get to see them. They see themselves in there, and we call them our near peer mentors because of that age range. And they connect to them in a totally different way and just have a super fun time with them. Our high schoolers, they aren't the ones. They're not the supervision. When we talked about that earlier, that's our staff, whether it's our instructors, admin, lead instructors, that's our supervision, and we're all their responsibility falls on. These volunteers are just supporting our instructors during activities. They sit at meals with your kids, making sure conversations are happening that are appropriate, but also super fun. And they are also in the cabins, like I said, in the bunk rooms themselves. We have more eyes spread out, while our instructors and support can also help out in those cabins. Yeah.
All right, we'll jump into some frequently asked questions. And if we haven't caught your question yet or here, we'll make sure to get to it. To start off, what does the supervision look like? As Ryan just mentioned, our instructors are the ones supervising the students. The exception to that is when the students are with the teachers, or potentially with the nurse or an admin person. The high school leads offer support. They are not the supervision for the students. So in general, that ratio breaks down to about 1 to 12 or 1 to 15, depending a little bit on the school size. We, in addition to that, have admin that step in a lot or are part of different activities. So that ratio often gets dropped down below 1 to 12, more like 1 to 8, 1 to 6. And he also mentioned that in the cabins, we do have instructors in there, and they are the overall supervising body for the students. And high school leads are offering support and often a lot of fun, but the supervision comes from the instructors. Safety precautions. So as I mentioned, all the instructors and all of our staff basically are certified in first aid and CPR. They're trained in emergency protocol. We all carry radios pretty much everywhere at camp. So at any time, if you need some support or assistance, you can call on the radio, and that could be admin coming to offer support. It could be the nurse coming in to help with something. We also carry a district radio. So this directly links us to district security, which is the same system that's used in schools. So at any point, if we need support or backup, we can just connect with them through the radio. We do have the Larkspur Fire Department about 5 minutes down the road. They're quick to respond if ever needed. Our property is locked and gated. So anyone that's coming in has to be at the gate, pressing the buzzer. We get a video and a phone buzz with that and can see who that is, and they have to have permission to come on the property. And anyone who comes who is there with the district for repairs or anything like that is part of just being a district employee, in which case they've been background checked. So we don't allow just anyone to come on the property, and there's not really anybody wandering onto the camp at any time. In case of emergency, as I mentioned, we have radios as needed. We also have the district radio. We have Wi-Fi. If necessary, the fire department is down the street. And again, our staff are trained in first aid and CPR. We have an AED in our building, and then the nurses there 24 hours a day as well. Discipline policies and practice. So we have a 3-strike system at Stone Canyon. And what that looks like is it follows the 3 R's. So respecting self, respecting others, and respecting the environment. And if at any time a student is not respecting one of those things, it's possible they could get a strike. And the first strike is a pretty solid warning. It involves what it is that they didn't respect and what behavior needs to shift for them to move forward and be able to participate. The second strike is a lot more serious. It's a similar conversation. It often brings in the teachers if they weren't involved in the first conversation, the first strike, and we call home to you, to the family. And we hope to not get to a third strike, but if we do, students go home. So maybe outdoor ed is not quite the right place for them. We have a couple of zero tolerance policies around physical violence or assault of any kind. So that would fast forward a student very quickly to 3 strikes if they were not respecting others in that way. In general, we work really hard to do what we can to meet different needs and behavior considerations for students. And it's really, really unlikely that we get to 3 strikes. All right, what sets Stone Canyon apart from similar programs? This is a great question. So one thing is our staff are really passionate about what they do. They're quite adept at addressing different needs, at making shifts in their classroom, and doing what they can to meet different learning needs and different behavioral considerations. In addition to that, we have really amazing curriculum. So Ryan was talking through a lot of our curriculum, and a lot of our science classes are in alignment with the state of Colorado's 6th grade science standards. So often it is reinforcing what students can be learning in school, or it can be like a foreshadowing of what's to come, maybe with part of their science curriculum later on in the year. Yeah, we have some fantastic curriculum and staff. And we're also focused more on education than fun and adventure. So while there is adventure incorporated into our activities, we have less injuries maybe than some other programs. And we have a pretty strong focus on safety in general. So meeting the needs of students, whether those are emotional or physical or anything else. Right. Ryan, you want to touch base about homesickness?
Yeah. So how is homesickness handled? Well, it's handled in many different ways. So we have students, participants who come here and it might be their first time away from home. And it's been really common this past year. We just seen that. I think we just had a lot fewer kids like having sleepovers with this past like couple years that we've gone through. And so we've seen a little bit of an uptick in homesickness. And it's super normal, and we were happy to help with that. Our first thing we do is just help them see why they want to be here and kind of get to the root of what's going on. Because maybe the first thing we noticed was that they were complaining of stomach aches, or they just came up and told us, "Hey, I'm homesick." And it kind of presents itself in so many different ways. And so then we handle it on an individual or very unique way each time. Because I've had homesickness talks that were just a quick 5-minute chat of just they needed someone to say something to an hour long of just really getting into it and trying to find out like why they're missing home. And the reason most of the time is because they have amazing parents like you all at home that they're missing, or their dogs. There's a lot of dogs also. So we go through, we talk about that. We talk about how empowering it is to be at camp and away from home, and how it builds and gives them the tools as they keep going on past here. Times I might talk about going on to high school and college, or into working even after high school. And how that prepares them for life. And then I also will also bring in and loop in teachers to kind of get some support from the people that see them a lot more than we do. Then sometimes we will reach out on behalf of the student to you all if we feel that there's a greater need there. We don't typically let kids call home when they're when they're homesick, especially late at night, just because it doesn't go very well. What will usually happen is it ramps up the emotions, and it's like, I need to go get my kid, and we go and get them, and everything's happening late at night. Or what happens in the most cases is they're told to tough it out or to hang in there, and then they don't do well after that either. And so we try to be a liaison in between the student and teachers and you all, and we'll try to get as much information as we can to help with that. Yeah. Can parents attend? I know right after I talked about homesickness, this is the very next question that probably pops into our minds. Well, if I could be there, they won't be homesick. Well, we don't let our parents attend. And that's for a few different reasons. Kind of the same thing we were talking about, that homesickness side, is this is a time where they get to feel self-empowered. They get to take on new identity sometimes and try out new things in a new environment. And it allows them to grow in a different way and to really interact with their peers in this new way. And so we want them to learn out here on their own and with their peers and with their teachers. Yeah. Can you transport your child to Stone Canyon? We ask that you don't. We ask that they come on the bus with all the other kids. One, from a logistics standpoint, it just helps everything in so many ways. It also, from what I've seen, when the bus pulls up, stops, and they open the doors, and kids are just singing Disney songs or anything else, just coming off the bus with that high energy. They're already hyped up for camp before they even came through that gate. It's just a really good bonding moment and a really great way to kind of enter camp. And so we do ask that they ride the bus. How are dietary restrictions handled? So earlier, we heard about our meals and our chef, Kim, who's awesome. And Kim does an amazing job with all of like a lot of the standard dietary needs, with whether it's gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan, and dairy-free, and all of this. And so as long as on that registration form, you're highlighting and mentioning that to us, our chef is also looking at that information as well, gets all those dietary needs, and is getting that food and then really make a separate meal or a separate item to replace a part of the meal. When we eat family style, all the non-dietary food will be on the table. If there's anything on the table that they can't have, they're just going to take their plate and go get the item that needs to replace something in that meal from our chef that's been made specifically for them. And then they'll eat right there with their friends. If there's anything huge, I think like Kelly said, that's when we really need to reach out to Kim, whether it's like need to hit certain caloric needs like calorie numbers and stuff like that, then it might be a really good idea to email and reach out to Kim. How many schools are on site at one time? There's only going to be one school at a time. They go from Monday. They arrive here at 10, between 10 and 10:30. They get off the bus, they get some orientation, they hit the ground running, they have lots and lots of fun. And then on Wednesday morning or Friday morning, they head back out. And they're usually leaving here at about 11:15. Now, you're like, well, those numbers don't match up on Wednesday. We do have 2 schools on Wednesday here at the same time, because typically, especially when it's in district schools, the buses that are dropping off the back half of the week are picking up the front half. And so we're out using our high school leads. They're helping us load and unload luggage and all that. And the 2 sets of students don't ever see each other in the way we move them around camp during that time. Policy on electronics. We have we don't allow any electronics, especially ones that connect to the internet, but also like Kindle devices and other things like that. Cameras are totally fine. We're not going to allow smartwatches that connect to the internet. I know we might want to count those steps because we're out there advertising get so many, but for those devices that connect to the internet, we do have to leave at home, or if they do come, we take them and give them back to the teacher on that first day, and they are reunited with their owners when they get back to school. The only time they see any electronics is on the last morning when they get to look at our old iPads and take a survey. How do I register my student? I believe the information is sent from our registration person, Amy, who also runs our summer camp. And those are sent out to, I believe, teachers, and then teachers distribute links and stuff to fill out those forms out in advance by like about a month, I think. I'm not sure on those timelines. I think Kelly might know a little more.
Yeah, that's about right. The link should be coming through your teachers. And then also there's every school has a link on our website. We do ask that you pay really close attention to which school you're clicking on so you don't double register your students. But typically that information comes through the school from a teacher with a direct link.
What's on our packing list? So we will also be sending out those packing lists and that information that gets sent to teachers, who then distributes that to you all. But the big things are in cabin, they're going to need like something for sleeping with. So whether it's a sleeping bag, sheets, and a quilt. We have like little like twin size bunk that you saw in that past picture on cabins. That's just those blue mattresses that we can quickly clean. So they'll need something like that, a pillow, maybe their favorite stuffy too in there, maybe even a card game or something if they want to bring that. Any other shower stuff, towels, toothbrushes, and all that good stuff. If they forget any of those, it's all right. It's not a big thing. We have a lot of spare items that we can also distribute to them. Then we get off for the day. We want to make sure they have all their layers, especially starting now, as we hit the ground running right in the middle of winter. We got snow on the ground. We were shoveling everything today and throughout the week and getting everything ready. We've been plowing and getting site ready. It's still been kind of cold. The sun comes out, it's a little bit warmer, but we make sure we have plenty of layers, have our really our good winter jackets, something that's waterproof. And especially if they have waterproof pants as well to put over their normal pants, that's gonna be awesome. That's the one, keep them dry, but also if the wind gets going, it's not going to cut through that rain layer or that wind. It's going to be more windproof as well. Extra socks because we got cold feet. We got wet feet. We got cold feet. All right, I want to make sure we're good there as well. And then other bonus items, like I said, they want to bring that camera to capture those memories. Want to bring a notebook. Make sure they have a day pack or a small backpack to put those items in, because as we all know, it starts out kind of cold. It's going to warm up probably in the middle of the day and just get cold again. That way they can delayer, put stuff in their backpack, but bring it back out again. And the last item, or our last two items, a good water bottle, because we're going to be moving around a lot and at a slightly higher elevation here in Larkspur, but also some good footwear. We still got, like I said, we still have snow. We'll be snowshoeing some trails as well, getting them ready. But I want to make sure, once again, we have good waterproof, good hiking boots, things that can get dirty, because we want to keep our feet comfortable and dry. All right. Then how do we handle bedwetting? The key here is discretion. If your student is someone who, whether they actively bedwet still or not, we get that information. The only people that are aware of it are going to be our instructors, but also our high school students who are in there, and they know to keep that discreet as well. And that's just so we're ready, so we can take those precautions ahead of time, where we're using the bathroom 15 minutes before, right before bed, and checking in on them the next morning. If it's someone that maybe it's not on our radar, and we find out first thing in the morning, still we're going to be using discretion. Or in the middle of the night, our high schoolers are going to be the first probably to notice. They're going to let our instructors know. They'll call our on duty or on call people. We'll swing up. We'll bring them new clothes that they needed, new sleeping bags, anything like that we have in our supplies. Get them get showered, all that good stuff, and rejoin without waking anybody else up. And give them a new mattress as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. That was excellent. This is just a slide to demonstrate a little bit of the apparel that we offer. The note about this is that this can only be purchased online. And so if you purchase it before you come to Stone Canyon, it will get delivered to your child's bunk room, and they can have it from there on. We don't send it out through the mail, and we don't send it out to the school. So if your student is interested in it, purchasing it online is the way to purchase it. We don't have a camp store or anything like that. All right. So again, this is our website and a little social media here. This is my number below at the office, and this is my email address. And I can't emphasize enough how much more likely I am to be quicker to respond to you with an email than I am a phone call. It's really rare that I'm sitting at the desk, much less a desk where my phone is, when we have schools on property, and basically from here until the middle of May. But I'm happy to respond to questions you have, or to any additional concerns or a need for clarification, anything like that. And again, we had talked about different people to contact. So at the top here is Kim Wolfram. She is our head chef, and she can be found at this email address here. She's the one to reach out to for questions about meals, for caloric intake, for dietary needs, for any specific questions. I know there was a couple questions that you all had sent in about nut-free or fish-free items. We don't give anything that has nuts in it, or anything that is at all connected to nuts. We are a nut aware facility. And for the most part, we rarely have fish, but it's possible we might. So that would be something you'd want to reach out about if that was pretty specific or like a high need. Ryan mentioned Amy Paulson. She is the one that oversees our registration through the active program online. This is her email address. And then also that registration link is usually sent through the school from your teachers. This is Ryan's info about any questions around high school lead volunteers. If you have any older students in your household that might want to volunteer or come to Stone Canyon, as long as they are, I believe, sophomores or above. This season's pretty booked, but we would love to have them come out in the fall. And then again, my number and email address here. If you have any special needs or specific program questions, you can find them here. And then, Ryan, I'll start in with some of the additional questions that we got if you want to look over the chat, and we can see if there's any overlap there for questions. Let's see. We mentioned no technology, so please do not have your student bring an Apple Watch or any kind of smartwatch. We don't have service in the Canyon in terms of getting reception, so it's really rare that anything would come through. But in general, we ask them to let go of technology and really be focused on where they are, who they're with, what they're doing. If there's any kind of other needs to communicate, connect with your teacher and see about that for anything with your student. Let's see. We mentioned the adult to child ratio is usually 1 to 12, up to 1 to 15. Again, if your student has any medication needs, they can bring the things that were on that list. Anything else needs to have a provider form, and be sure to click the button on the registration about giving permission for the nurse to provide. Let's see, I can read that list again briefly here. I think I can. It's Tylenol, Benadryl, ibuprofen, Zyrtec, Tums, antacid, anti-itch cream, burn cream, and cough drops. Those are all the things that we carry on stock that our nurse can administer as long as you've given permission during registration. Let's see. I think Ryan mentioned this, but we have up to 16 students in a bunk room. So it could be as small as 6 to 10 and up to 16. Let's see. I think we already mentioned about electronics. Regular cameras in terms of digital cameras are fine. And they can also bring the old school cameras with film. Kids can definitely bring books with them. When they're welcome to read at night, we do have a little time frame that would probably be a good time for them to read. But it does need to be an actual book with paper versus a Kindle or anything else. Let's see. We did mention that the kids sleep in the bunk room and that we have single-use restrooms and showers. Only one person may use a restroom or a shower at a time. We do not have doors on our bunk rooms, and that's to help with supervision. Let's see. Again, we'll have 2 Stone Canyon staff in the bunk rooms or in the cabins, and they are the ones overall in charge of the supervision. Let's see. We do not have fishing, although that'd be a lot of fun for our outdoor activities. There will not be swimming this time of year or in warmer times of the year. We don't have swimming at Stone Canyon. And if the student isn't able to do the activities, it depends a little bit on their situation. If they injured something and they've got like a boot on their foot, usually we can accommodate that pretty well. It might be helpful to give some advance notice. If there's anything else, like if they work with a one-on-one aide or something at school, typically the teachers are in touch with us about that. I'd reach out to your teacher and see what's a plan that maybe they've already talked about, or what kind of plan can be in place. There's a lot of different activities that we can accommodate for. Stone Canyon at the same time is a large facility. There is a lot of walking between activities. Let's see. All right, Ryan, I'm going to pass it on to you. What do we got in our chat here?
Yeah, so we have a few things, but I did want to tack on to that. Can we accommodate things as well? What's another thing I meant to mention about our rope scores is that we can accommodate a few different abilities there as well. We have a system that allows us to bring people up. If they're not able to climb themselves, but they can be on the actual element, we have one that's a bridge that they can walk across if they would like. We've had people there use this system that either have sensory needs or like even a wheelchair can be brought up with them as well, which is a really cool addition. But moving into our chat, see now, we had a question about when do we get the form. So I think we kind of covered that. We have links on our website, but also you'll be getting direct links from your teachers who will be sending those to. When will they return on Wednesday? On Wednesdays and Fridays when they depart here, they depart between 11 and 11:15. And then beyond that, whether they are getting picked up immediately at school or if they're continuing on with some other stuff at school, that'll be school specific though. All right. We had a couple questions about a lot of our curriculum is directed towards 5th and 6th grade students. And we have some questions about 8th graders. I believe all our programs this spring that have been booked, as far as I know, are either 5th or 6th grade. We have accommodated 8th graders school groups in the past. And we just kind of up those ideas. And usually a lot of times how it has been adapted, if we have any 8th grade groups end up coming out, is they're usually really a lot faster at figuring things out and building things. So a lot of times we give them more chances to build things more and to do even on a larger scale sometimes, and kind of give them more chances at that. And then we'll even bring in some maybe a little bit higher level ideas, because a lot of our instructors also got their degrees in things like I got mine in wildlife conservation. So I bring a lot of stuff about fire and a lot of things about wildlife into my when I used to teach. But also these people know a lot about environmental things as well, and they'll bring that in. Another question about allowing to bring little devices that kind of touched on that with we don't really allow them. One, we don't have service. And two, we really want kids to connect with the nature around them and the outdoor experience. How long does each kiddo have to shower, brush teeth, and so on? So one, we get back to cabin. We have about an hour, maybe just a little over an hour back at cabin before the lights out. During that time, we have a lot of our kids are getting a chance to shower. On their night to shower, they'll get we try to limit them to 4 minutes to go in there, get the water going, shower, and get out. We have timers, we have reminders by our high schoolers and stuff. But at the same time, we're not going to shut the water off or do anything like that at the end of 4 minutes. We're just trying to do that so we have enough time to get everyone through, but also to be conscious of our water use at the same time. Brushing teeth, so on. Same idea while the showers are happening, other spaces for bathroom use, showers and changing and getting ready for bed with that as well. We're usually checking in with kids, checking on, have you done what you need to get ready for bed and all that good stuff. All right. The program has been offered. All right.
I think for that one, I was just going to chime in. We have had on occasion 7th grade and 8th grade come before, and as Ryan mentioned, usually we'll elevate some of the curriculum up a little bit. We'll also give them more opportunities to do things, and there's also a distinction between them coming. If they're 8th graders, we typically have just the 8th graders on site. We don't typically have the high school leads for those programs. There's a few different changes. There's a few things like team building that can really look different with your 13, 14-year-olds versus your 11 and 12-year-olds. But in general, it's a lot of the same activities, particularly with the high ropes and the zip line and the archery. And for the ones that have the curriculum that we can advance a little bit, we do that, and we give them a little more leeway in some of the classes for getting creative or collaborating with some things. Awesome. I don't see any other questions. Did you have anything else to add, Ryan?
Other than that, we're super excited to have your kids out with us. We're wrapping up training over the next couple days here, that 2-week training. Our instructors are so amazing and so excited to work with everyone. Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome season with them.
Wonderful. Yeah, we were really, really excited. We're grateful for the opportunity to get to work with them. We are often the students sometimes, and they are the teachers, as is the case with younger people. But thank you very much. And please reach out to any of those contacts if you have questions. And again, there's a lot of information to find online that can be another resource as well. Thank you so much.